Okay, so first of all, I just kind of laughed a little bit from this description back here. Two titans of terror going at it, mano a machete. It's kind of hilarious. I'd never read that before. This is from the Friday the 13th Scream Factory collection, and I kind of like this cover better because I like the simplicity of covers and posters a lot of times, but of course, you do get the original VHS cover in there as well. And for those of you who don't know, this is the 20th anniversary for this film this month. And 2003, this came out in August of 2003. And although this is not like the first Jason that I remember, it's the first one to come out when I was like old enough to watch and understand horror films, kind of thing. Because Jason Goes to Hell had come out in '93, and I always remember seeing the poster as a child, but never watched the film until like later on in life. It was actually the last Jason movie that I'd seen, and also the worst Jason movie that I'd seen. Definitely my least favorite of the franchise for sure. Or maybe Jason X is. I don't know. I'd have to watch them back to back. But Freddy vs. Jason is definitely one that I have like a lot of memories of it being in theaters, and the characters, and definitely with that really product of its time era, with like it had it had the same feel that like late '90s, early 2000s films had, that all felt the same, with like the characters and just the way the films were directed and paced, and the CGI is just horrendously terrible, just like every film of that era, where they were going balls to the wall with this new technology that they had with CGI, but it just wasn't perfected yet. But I never liked this film as much as I did throughout the years and rewatching it, because it definitely, with its nostalgia growing on it, it's definitely more enjoyable. And because it has the charm of that era, just like the '80s movies had the charm of their era. Films like this just age better, even though they're still poor and you can see the bad qualities in them. Those qualities age better as time goes on, and I think there's going to be a lot of like resurgences with these kinds of films. So basically, you have the two titans of the '80s battling it out between Freddy and Jason. And plot wise, I gave this film a 2.5. First of all, this viewing, and that's just because I really liked certain aspects about it, and I really didn't like other aspects about it. I love the metal soundtrack in this film. You get like, I think you get some Mudvayne in here, but the theme song or final song of the film is by Il Nino. It's actually a really good band, very underrated band. Similar to POD, for anybody who knows the metal band POD, they're similar like that. Not quite the rawness of Korn, much more polished metal, but softer, no like growling or anything like that. They're really good, and they're in here, and it just, again, that's another trope of these films. They always pack them with like great metal songs, and by metal bands that were of the time, and I just love that. But anyways, getting to the plot. So we have a recap, which I don't really like. I'm not a big fan of Freddy recapping the entire Nightmare on Elm Street series. I guess it's fine for people who haven't watched them, but I think most people have watched at least one Nightmare movie coming into this. And he's recapping everything that happened, and the kids are losing fear for him, so he has no power anymore. So he goes into the dream state of Jason, who is now kind of dormant because he's not killing anybody either, because there's nobody going to Crystal Lake because of all the infamous murders that go on there. So there's no kids for him to murder. So he's dormant, kind of, I guess he's asleep in some state or something like that. So Freddy enters his dream and poses as Pamela Voorhees, who's also played by a different woman in this one. Apparently, they tried to get Betty Davis, I think it's pronounced, back into this, which would have been cool, but she didn't want to for some reason. And this woman does a good job playing Pamela Voorhees. I mean, there's nothing. She hams in her performance really well, so no complaints on her for doing the job. And Freddy poses as her and sends Jason back to Elm Street in Springwood to bring fear back into the town, which I guess his plan is to, because the kids of Springwood, I guess, maybe are going to think that these murders are being done by Freddy, even though Jason's walking around everywhere. So even if they're going to be afraid again, they're going to be afraid because of another entity, because of another killer. Essentially, they're not going to be afraid of Freddy. I would think, unless Jason's killing a bunch of kids and then hiding, which wasn't the plan. At least it was that plan wasn't made clear in here. But yeah, like right at the beginning, during this dream sequence, Jason like stabs this girl onto a tree, and the effects on her face, like it's flashing through a bunch of kids, and the CGI is horrendous. Right before that, too, this girl is first of all, she looks like 40. Just I'm sorry, I'm just being mean for no reason at all. But this girl does not look like she's 20 or 21 like the other camp counselors did. This girl looks not not in her 20s and not like a teen. Let's just put it that way. But hey, I'm sure people think I look 40 and I'm fucking 34. So then we're introduced to our main characters. We have Christine. No, not Christina. Catherine Isabel, sorry, my bad. From Ginger Snaps. Beautiful girl. I mean, she was gorgeous in Ginger Snaps. She's gorgeous here. She's always gorgeous. She's gorgeous today, just as much as she was back in like 20 years ago. She's just a very, very, very beautiful girl. And then we have Monica Keena, who's the main girl in this film. And she has a familiar face. I didn't look up what other film she's in, but I definitely recognize her. And then we have Kelly Rowland, who is famous for Destiny's Child, of course, in probably her first acting role. I know she did some other stuff, but she didn't do too much acting. This is one of her big acting roles, and she's fine. I'd say she's a better singer, but she's fine. She's the token black girl basically, and the comedic relief along with this stoner kid. So basically, you have two comedic reliefs in this film. I think Kelly Rowland does a better job being the comedic relief, because the stoner kid is just, I don't, they just throw him in so like randomly in the middle of the movie. They don't build him up at all. There's this other character named Linderman, who plays a nerdy kid, and they slowly introduce him as the nerdy kid, bringing him into a scene here and there. But the stoner kid just shows up in the middle of the film at a party, at a bush party, and then he's a main character along with all the other characters all of a sudden. So I found that weird. These three girls, their names are Lori is the main girl. Kelly Rowland plays Kia, and then Catherine Isabel plays Gib, and they're basically hanging out at the is it 1428 Elm Street? The Elm Street house from the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Lori lives there now, and the parents are gone, and they're just hanging out, having boys over. These guys named Trey and Blake come over. Trey is dating Gib, and Blake is single and trying to get with Laurie, even though Laurie has no interest in him. And Kelly Rowland is like trying to push Blake to like push them together, but Laurie wants nothing to do with it. And Gibbs' boyfriend Trey, like, dear God, is he like just so stereotypical dick that you don't like. Even Laurie's like, what do you see in him? And Gibbs like, I don't know, but he has a cute ass. Like, she's obviously the insecure girl who's dating this jerk because, I don't know, he looks good or something. But like, this guy like tells her not to smoke. He kisses her and then he gets disgusted because she's smoking. Just picks on her for absolutely everything. They fuck upstairs, and then when they're done, he doesn't want to cuddle at all. He doesn't want to be touched. So it's just, he just like tells her to go take a shower, and it's just, it's one of those situations where it's set up like supposed to be stereotypical, but it's just so overboard and over the top that it's just like, seriously though, what are you doing with this guy? Kind of thing. Especially Catherine Isabel's character looking like she does. Like, Jesus, she is the hottest girl in this film, in my opinion. Even more so than Monica Keena or Kelly Rowland. But that's just my opinion. And then Trey's kill is very well deserved because I love, and that's a good bloody kill because I don't know if they use CGI in it or not, but the blood looks great regardless. And Jason is just like ramming that machete into him like 8, 10, 12 times, and he's just getting brutalized, and then he folds the bed together, and the guy just like bends over backwards literally, and it looks really good. And then Gibbs in the shower, and I'm wondering, is that Catherine Isabel? She's completely nude, or is that a double? Just because her tits, okay, Catherine Isabel's breasts don't look as big as the scene from above in the shower. So I'm wondering if Catherine Isabel had somebody stand in for her because she didn't want to be naked, or if the director wanted somebody with bigger breasts in the shower, because the girl in the shower, she looks like she has porn star tits. And Catherine Isabel doesn't look like she has porn star tits, which is actually a good thing because porn star tits are not attractive to me. You know, when they look like you have four balloons in there, it's no. I'd rather just like a really good soft handful, in my opinion. But why am I talking about my preferences on the female anatomy? I should be talking about my preferences on the movie. Regardless, I'm just wondering if it was a double or not in the shower, because like I said, there's a big difference in the chest area. She comes out, she's screaming, seeing Trey dead, and then the girls run out of the house, and then there's this dorky cop. I forget his name, but again, I've seen him in other films. He doesn't always play the dorky cop, but he has this dorky kind of demeanor, kind of like Dewey did in Scream. In every movie he's in, he usually plays that dorky demeanor kind of guy, and he does in this, and he rolls down the window. He's a police officer, and he's like, "You ladies need any assistance?" And then one of them, I think it's Gibb, is like, "What the fuck do you think?" And she's like covered in blood. So they go to the police station, and this is where the town starts to suspect that strange things are going on, and it's revealed that they were covering up Freddy Krueger, and we have this kind of side plot going on at this place called Weston Hills Psychiatric Center. It's basically a loony bin where these kids are put in there. These two named Will and Mark, and Will and Mark I think they were originally from Springfield, but then they were transferred to another town or something like that. They're in the mental hospital because Will claims that he was dating Lori like 4 years prior when they were like teens. And he claims he saw that Lori's father killed Lori's mother, stabbed her to death in the bed. This is what he claims. So he was put away for that. And Mark's brother, offed himself, and Mark suffered the dreams of Freddy. So they thought he was crazy, and they put him away. And in the psychiatric center, they're given drugs, which are called, starts with an H. I'm looking through my notes, but it's a drug that basically suppresses dreams. And they're given this to suppress their dreams so that everybody can forget Freddy. And this was like a plot in Nightmare 3 as well, where the town's plan was to make everybody forget Freddy, so then there's no fear of Freddy, so therefore Freddy's defeated, because Freddy can only kill when people know who he is and when people are afraid of him, basically. So you're not afraid of Freddy, you can go to sleep just fine, you don't have any dreams, and Freddy has no power, basically. So at the beginning of this film, it's Jason's reign on Springfield, basically. I think it's Springfield. I don't think it's Springwood. I think it's Springfield. I think. But if it's Springwood, I'm sorry. But he's going, on a killing spree. I like the kill when he kills Blake on his porch, and he kills his dad first and just takes his head off. The CGI sucks there, but he slashes Blake, and then his blood goes all over the place. It was pretty cool. The worst dream kill, I guess, it's not a kill, but the worst like CGI effect is with Kelly Rowland when she falls asleep while reading a magazine, and then Freddy's like, "Got your nose," and flicks it off, and it looks crazy ridiculous. The missing nose, and very, very cartoon. Very, compared to the rest of the movie, not good at all. So Mark and Will show up at the high school of Lori, and they just show up. Literally, they just show up, and they just walk in there from because they escaped the mental hospital, and I should talk about that too. It doesn't make any sense their escape. I don't know what was with the writing and how they wrote it this way, but Mark causes this like huge kerfuffle where he's acting like a monkey and like showing his ass to the security and like tries to get the security basically after him. And then the security uses a drug to knock him out and basically tranquilize him essentially, and then they drag him off to bed and to Will's room because Will and him sleep side by side. And then Will's like, "What the fuck was that all about?" And then Mark holds up the keys. If he was tranquilized, then he'd be asleep. Like, what the fuck just happened there? You even see the doctors opening up the needle like they're ready to give it to him, and then the next scene they're dragging him down to the room, so he should be completely unconscious. But he gets to the room and he's just like, "So the drug didn't work, or they didn't give it to you? Well, what happened there?" It's very confusing. But when they go back to the when they figure out everything that's happening with the drug and everything and they go back to the psychiatric ward, all those kids that are in comas because they were given too much of the drug, I'm still trying to find the name, I can't find it. That's disturbing, and seeing all those kids like you know strapped to machines and shit. um that always haunted me, that part of the movie that always haunted me when I was younger, and it still haunts me today. I love the rave in the cornfield. First of all, I've never heard of myself too many parties in cornfields with techno music, or any electronic music. Period. It's I've all the ones I've been to is country or rock or metal. I've never been to like a bush party or a cornfield party where they're playing electronic music. But I love electronic music, so I'm not complaining. I'm just saying I've never seen it, and it doesn't fit the atmosphere too much. But I love Jason's rampage there, and he's just hacking up bodies, and then he comes up to these two guys, and they're making fun of Jason because they think he's just some random guy who showed up at this party in a Halloween costume, even though it's not Halloween at all. It's just a rave, and they're making fun of him. And then Jason like snaps one of their necks, and again, really bad CGI with the head turning completely around. They did a better job in The Exorcist in 1973, and this is 30 years later, 2003. Do better. And then the other kid like runs off, and they're drinking Everclear too. And the kid's like, "This Everclear is kicking my ass." Well, yeah, Everclear is the strongest alcohol. Like Everclear is pure alcohol. I think it's in the 90%. It's not diluted at all. It's just alcohol. So yeah, it's kicking your ass. You take 10 shots of that, you'll probably die. It's like ethanol, like at its purest form. But the flames in the because Buddy throws alcohol onto Jason and lights him on fire, and then he's walking through the forest and everything. He's like lighting a path of fire, and then you got flaming Jason just hacking everybody. And for some reason, this kid starts throwing water at Jason. You want to put his fire out? What the fuck are you doing? Like Jason's on fire and you want to put it out. Yeah, he's wielding a machete, and clearly he's a fucking lunatic, and he's on fire, so you don't want to let him burn. You want to put it out instead. All right. Okay. I hate the worm scene with the stoner kid. Again, I really hate the worm scene. The worm looks awful. It's stupid. It's Freddy pretending to be a worm, but Freddy smokes from a hookah, getting high with the stoner kid, and the worm goes away. And then the worm jumps down the stoner kid's throat and then possesses him, so he dumps all the drug that starts with the letter H down the drain because he's possessed. And it's cool when he's there standing with because he fills these syringes with some kind of drug to knock Jason out, and it's cool when he's possessed and he's like, "Let me handle this bitch." One of the best lines with Freddy's voice, Robert Englund's voice. And then he puts him right into Jason's neck, and Jason goes down, and then this is where Freddy gets to enter Jason's dream world, or bring Jason into his dream world, where they have a fight in the dream world essentially. And I like when it moves into then the dream world of Camp Crystal Lake. And one of my favorite scenes in this film for comedic relief is when Freddy is fucking the girl on the wall, and he's just, I forget what he says. Oh, the drug is Hypnosil, by the way. Hypnosil is the drug. And yeah, he says something. He's banging the girl. I forget what he says, but he's like, "Isn't she a dead bitch or something?" And then he grabs her arm and he's flapping her arm while he's fucking her. It's kind of fucked. But speaking of fucking, product of its time here. Okay, let me talk about this for just a sec. It's Jib, right? Her death scene. Okay, here we go. She's passed out in the cornfield, and this is where she enters her nightmare, and Freddy's after her. So she's in a dream world, and she's there lying in the cornfield. Here comes this raver, and he's there. She's passed out, and he just turns around, like kind of seeing if anybody's around, and you're already like, okay, I know where this is going. And I mean, it's a sexual assault scene essentially, and they show enough of it, and like I say product of its time because it's very very hard to get away with showing scenes like that today. We live in a much more sensitive time. But the thing is, I don't see why, other than like people who have been victimized being triggered by watching these scenes, like showing something on screen that happens, something bad, something terrible, a terrible thing that happens, showing it on screen. Let's just change it to something else. Let's say, terrorists shooting up a building. You know, that happens in real life. It's horrible, but it happens. And displaying it on a film for something, like showing it, I don't really see why it's a problem, why it shouldn't be done. I don't see how portraying something for a purpose on screen should be a problem, should be not allowed. And it's the same thing with the sexual assault. It's a horrible thing that unfortunately happens sometimes. And I just don't see it as a problem to display in a fictional movie to show how horrible it is. Now, obviously, it didn't lead anywhere. The guy just starts doing it, and then Jason comes along and stabs him and stabs Jill at the same time, so he kind of skewers them both. And in the dream world, I like how they made it seem like Jason was stealing Freddy's kill, because in the dream world she dies, but it's Jason that kills her instead of Freddy, and Freddy wanted her to himself as his kill. But yeah, Jason obviously took care of that sick raver who was doing the deed, and flings him just like through the cornfield. I love it. Like, it's kind of like he has like some kind of javelin, and he just literally just flings the guy, but in doing so, he also pierces Gib. So yeah, it's not a pleasant scene to watch by any means, and I have sympathy. My point was like people get offended just for the fact that it's in a movie. Period, kind of thing. And yeah, it could be exploited, and exploiting it is not good at all. Maybe that's when people get pissed, and in this film specifically, is it exploitive a little bit? Maybe it could be looked at as exploitive, but I don't know. It's just my thoughts on it. Like, that was my little interlude about that. But she also gets killed off too early. I wish like a lot of people say this too, that me and a lot of other people that I've heard review this film wish they got a lot more of Gib, because Gib was awesome and Catherine Isabel is hot, of course. And then the finale is fantastic too. Now, a lot of people complain that Freddy and Jason don't fight really till the end, but it's worth the wait because the battle is actually really, really good on the docks, and I love how they use each other's weapons to kill each other. Jason rips Freddy's arm off and uses his glove on Freddy, and Freddy is using Jason's machete on Jason, so it's so cool, and the concept of that is awesome. Again, we get a lot of fire going, and it's just a really, really great battle to the death that I really, really liked. I like the idea that I like how they showed Freddy bringing Jason bringing Freddy into the real world, because Freddy was gripping young Jason while he was drowning in the water in the dream, and therefore was able to come from the dream to the real world. Kind of running out of time. I don't want to go 30 full minutes on this, but the climax essentially is really really good. The CPR scene on Jason was funny with Kelly Rowland, and she doesn't want to do it clearly because fuck who would. But she's like she delivers her lines really funny. I liked her as a comedic relief here. She was funny. She was a bitch for sure, but a funny bitch. And Lindemann, when he like tears her a new one, he's like, you know, you. I used to think you just hated me because I wasn't good enough for Laurie, but you just hate me because you actually hate yourself. You ever stop to think about that? Maybe if you think at all, because of all that makeup wearing down your face. It's such a corny insult, and it's so like eye rolling. And Kelly Rowland's character in real life would probably just laugh more. But I love how that makes her like have a self realization moment, and then all of a sudden, like 2 minutes later after that, she's in love with Lindemann, the nerdy character who she was making fun of through the rest of the film. It's just corny, and it's like, really, we're supposed to buy that? Whatever. Ronny Yu too is an interesting director for this film. He directed Bride of Chucky, so he has experience directing American horror films. But like his profession and his element is Hong Kong like martial arts and Hong Kong cinema in general. So that's a big jump. That's a big culture jump to be making films like, you know, on both spectrums, because culturally they're night and day. But yeah, it's a cool scene. I like Kelly Rowland chirping out Freddy, making fun of his knives as if he's compensating for something. The torpedoes that Freddy's launching at Jason was cool. Um, overall, it was a really competent battle movie, and it's not everybody's cup of tea, and it's not a masterpiece. It's in the mid to low section of both the Freddy and the Jason franchises, but it could have been way worse. So, I mean, for what we got, I can't complain too much. It was a really really good project, and Robert Englund's back. A lot of people complain that Kane Hodder didn't return to play Jason. I heard it was because of like a tallness issue. They wanted a taller Jason. They say they wanted a bigger Jason, but Kane Hodder's huge. I just don't like. I heard again Dave McRae, one of my favorite podcasters. He was saying that they wanted like a taller Jason, and it makes sense because Jason is like fucking tall in this film. But yeah, overall great film with a great climax, and I really liked it. I had a great time, and it builds more charm as time goes along, in my opinion. So I think that's the best thing that I can take away from this movie is how much charm it gains as the years go on. And happy 20th to this one. I was 14 when it came out, and I have a strong memory of it. But over the years, for me, because of the nostalgia and appreciating the cheese more, um, it's more enjoyable as I get older, and having the memories of it for what it is anyway. So that's Freddy vs. Jason. It came out in 2003 in August, and it's a lot of fun. So if you haven't seen it and you're watching this review, I don't know why, but go check it out because it is a blast to get through. So subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you like to listen to my voice or if you like my film reviews. I'll be back with more soon, so stay tuned for those. Check out what's on the channel already. Stay tuned for what's coming. Until next review, have a good one. Take care and cheers.